could not be more excited to be joined today by Joseph Timothy, certified public bookkeeper now, as of just recently. Joseph is one of the main reasons that I've had the transformation in my accounting career that I've had. Joseph, about a year ago, convinced me that getting experience outside of the classroom is where you really grow and develop as an accountant. And he was completely right. So he convinced me of that about a year ago. And I spent all my time up since then trying to find an internship and eventually got an internship and have grown and learned and developed. And Joseph has been over there doing it the whole time. So thank you for your example, Joseph, and for spreading the good word and for being so proactive about uh, developing as an accountant. Thanks for being on here, Joseph.
Yeah, for sure. I'm happy to be here. I think it's a bit generous to say I'm a large part of the change in your course, I guess you'd say. But I'm happy you took the advice, and I'm happy that things are working out. You got your internship, and things are looking up for full time employment after school.
Yeah, so you're currently at BYU, Idaho, studying accounting.
hmm
Uh, how did you end up studying accounting? You have family that studied accounting? Are you one of the psychos like me who just loves accounting? What's
No,
how did you get started there?
so it's kind of an interesting story. None of my family are accountants. No one's ever really studied that. My dad was just kind of like a natural born businessman, and he was a mortgage broker for a long time. Um, really, whenever I graduated high school, I was actually planning on going into vocal performance, kind of a 180 from where I'm at now. But so I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter Day Saints. If you've heard of Mormons before, yes, I'm one of those. So on my 2-year mission where I was serving, I served part of it in Argentina, and then the other part in Columbus, Ohio. I While I was in Ohio, I kept running into it and building bonds with a lot of accountants, and it wasn't like all in one field. Like I met accountants who worked for the FBI in forensic accounting. I met audit. I met tax partner. Like I don't know why I met so many, but a lot of those guys were really formative. And then that coupled with a couple more personal experiences that I can't really get into, just led me to accounting. And there hasn't really ever been any doubt. Once I kind of like chose that path, I got home, I started studying. I got my first job at H&R Block, and it just took off. I don't know. It's been a really unique experience, and I'm really grateful to know that like this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
It's a great feeling, isn't it? It For those of us who, well, I kind of feel like accounting picked me. Once you start getting into it, it kind of feels like it comes naturally and that it fits, right? But
Yeah, my wife is actually kind of going through that same thing right now. So she's currently a business management with an emphasis in marketing. That's what she's studying, but she took her 201 beginning financial accounting, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome! Like I love this." And then she actually got an interview with an employee of the company that we're going to intern with. Well, that I'm going to intern with, and she loved it, and so now she's kind of in the process of switching her major over to accounting to finish that out.
yikes, two accountants in one household. Oh
I
my
know.
goodness. Watch
She
out.
Yeah, she's like, ah, crap. Now I gotta go get a master's and a CPA, and so it's gonna be a grind for the next couple of years for us for sure.
I love it. That's awesome. So you've been at H&R Block now for, is it 2 years or
Uh,
3 years?
it's like 2.5 years now
Okay.
total. So I mean, I was contract for my first two tax seasons. I mean, I could have gone and worked, but I didn't really. Oh, were those balloons I saw? I saw little balloons come up in my screen. Anyway, sorry. I don't know what would have prompted that. But I Yeah, so I was contract for those first 2 seasons, and then last year on May 8th was my start date. Was when I transitioned to the new position.
Okay. So, I tell everyone that kind of landing your first internship or your first job in accounting is kind of the hardest one. So, how did you land that job at H&R Block with like little to no accounting experience, or had you gone out and gotten some of your own experience to be able to land that job?
Well, I mean, the job for me was a lot less of getting a job in accounting, more so as it was like I gotta eat. Because my first semester of school, like I get up there, I don't have a job, I don't have any money because I just got back from serving in the church for 2 years. And so I was dead broke. I was really hungry. I got chewed up on my younger brother, believe it or not, for kind of being a leech off my parents a little bit. And that kind of kicked my butt into high gear. And I was like, ah, crap, I got to get a job. So I started applying around. I kind of avoided like Taco Bell and McDonald's just because I knew I was going to get a job and that could be like default. But I applied to Wells Fargo and H&R Block. I got offers from both, and I ended up choosing H&R Block because I felt that was a little bit more tied to accounting. And I would say for as far as companies, like to start out, like if you're just trying to get your feet wet, if you're a freshman or a sophomore and you know you want to do accounting and you want to try out tax, H&R Block 100% of the way. Like I can't think of a better place. Like they've got an incredible environment. Like everyone's super willing to teach you. It's the type of clients that you're going to talk to and work with and see and do returns for are not going to be anything near the uh, I guess depth and complexity of what you would see at like a big four firm. They're very simple 1040s, like W-2s, students. They have a couple kids, they have a mortgage, and that's about it. If you're lucky, you might get some people with small businesses, but um, H&R Block was a breeze. I mean, I had to go through and I had to take these tax knowledge assessments, but they let you take the questions and then you can go and kind of study on your own and like find the answers to the questions, then come back and fill in the test, and so you can pass it. And I think you need like an 80% or something to pass. So I had to take two of those. I passed both of them, and with some wonderful help and guides along the way and mentors. And then I was considered an experienced tax pro. But I think as far as like barrier to entry and like gaining that level of experience, I don't think anyone has a better value proposition than H&R Block. And so I just recommend wholeheartedly for anyone like kind of starting out school, wanting to get their feet wet, wanting to get some sort of experience under their belt. Um, it just helps to even have it, just put it on your resume that you've gone through a season as a paid preparer. Um, H&R Block is a great way to go. So I didn't know that going into it, but now like retrospect, I see, and I'm glad I chose right.
Yeah, and H&R Block is everywhere, right? Like I think I passed like 7 or 8 of them between my house here and getting to school. So,
Yeah, they're
it's
all over the place.
yeah, so the opportunity is kind of everywhere for students, and I feel like it's a great place just to, like you said, get your feet wet. And that's what I want a big theme of this episode to be is your development as a young accountant is accelerated when you're getting experience outside of the classroom. So
Yes.
we had a discussion about a year ago, right? I think you had made a LinkedIn post and you had said, accounting students who aren't doing internships or working while they're in school are missing a major opportunity. And I was kind of frustrated by it because I have a daughter, I have a wife, we're both students, we're both, trying to work and make ends meet, and I was like, "You know what? This kid's just wrong. I don't have time for this. I've been trying to do this, but I don't think it's feasible for everyone." And as I started to realize and think, I started to see that the connection between success after school isn't just GPA. In fact, it's mostly not. There's almost no correlation between career success and your GPA in school. Um, Obviously, you want to prove that you've learned the content and done well, but after you have work experience, nobody's going to be asking for your GPA anymore. They
Yeah.
just want to see what you did at your past job. So I looked at that post and thought about it for a long time, and then I really started pushing to find an accounting internship, and it took me a little while, but I was able to do it. And wow, the connections I'm able to make between what I'm doing in my internship and the classroom, that's where the magic is. Because now I'm sitting in, a financial accounting class, and I'm understanding why this journal entry is so important, because I can see the end of what the financial statements need to look like now so that we can file this business's return. Or, one I was just dealing with a nonprofit not too long ago was pensions, or not pensions, leases, and how leases get recorded on the balance sheet. And you don't make these connections until you're in the books and in doing the dirty work for accounting all the time. So what connections have you been able to make between your experiences at H&R Block and the classroom?
I'll answer that question, but I do want to mention one thing that you said that was super important, and about GPA not being what truly matters, which I wholeheartedly agree with. There have been studies, I can't remember exactly what it is, but there have been studies that prove that like optimized learning is whenever people are around like 80%. Like if you're getting
Hmm.
a B, then that shows that your brain is growing and stretching, and there's still headroom there. There's a professor on campus at BYU Idaho. We don't say professor and then last name. We say brother and then their last name. So Brother Walsh, or Professor Walsh, he teaches our Tax 2 class 322. Um, and he gives us these prep quizzes at the beginning of class, and they're super vague. Like he says, like, okay, we're gonna go over partnerships. Go into CCH Connect and read up on partnerships, and he gives us like a few things that we can look up to learn more. Um, all of us bomb those prep quizzes every time, and finally he explained it, and he was like, I want you guys to know that like I love you all, and if you're getting around a 65%, you're doing really good on those quizzes, because real world is not going to be okay, here's this partnership return we're going to go through, and like you're going to do all this stuff perfectly. Like no, you're going to experience a lot of failure. You're going to get things wrong. You're not going to know what to do, and you're going to run into a lot of roadblocks. And so he wants to simulate his class to be a little bit more of what real life looks like. Obviously, it's nice because we have him as a professor to kind of put up the guardrails and be like, here's what we're focusing on. Um, but those come off once you're graduated and you start your first job, so it can be a little intimidating. And then, so sorry, that was just a tangent. And then, oh shoot, I can't remember your original question. Just like how I've been able to tie and draw parallels between work and school. Okay.
Yeah.
With my first two tax seasons, I worked in the office doing taxes. That was and that was before I took my first tax class. That was insanely helpful, just because I had seen the practical knowledge beforehand. And then when it came to our first tax class and we did tax returns, practice tax returns, he didn't provide, our professor or our school doesn't provide any software for that class, and so we had to do it all by hand. And it just made it so much easier. I mean, it sucked, but it made it so much easier having that knowledge beforehand, being like, okay, like here's what stuff should generally look like. Um, so there was that to help with that class. But I think even more helpful has been my current position as an account manager. So I watch the books, or I do the books, I guess you could say, for about 50 small business clients. They range from like very small startups to well established businesses that have been passed down to kids and now grandkids. And it's been really cool to be able to go through and do reconciliation, try to get records from the clients and coordinate all that, to run payroll and do all the adjusting entries. None of my accounts are accrual, thankfully, because I wouldn't I wouldn't
All
be very
cash
happy.
basis.
Yeah, so they're all cash. I'm grateful that they're not accrual yet. But it's been really nice to be able to go through, and I review with my clients either on a monthly or quarterly basis the P&L and the balance sheet. So I get a lot of exposure to seeing those and starting to point out what looks wrong and what's right. Because once I see
So you're
those,
already
then
doing advisory. You're already you're already helping your clients get key insights from their accounting.
yeah, a little. I mean, I have nothing to do with telling them where to put money or move assets, but I mean, the majority of the balance sheet is their bank accounts, credit cards, and then their capital accounts. So there's not like a ton of liabilities. Like a good portion of them have loans, but like I said, they are small businesses, so they're not super expansive. But yeah, getting that exposure to the balance sheet and to the experience of like combing through a general ledger with thousands of transactions to make sure stuff is right, it has been incredibly helpful. Not only in the first intermediate financial accounting, but now in 302 as well, which is, as we were talking about earlier, a bit of a step up and a bit more intimidating.
I love it. So before I go there, Patrick Walsh was one of my favorite professors at BYU Idaho when I was
he's
there. So,
he's awesome.
um, love the guy. Love that you mentioned what he's doing in his class. But I think there's something else to getting experience outside of the classroom too, and it's that you start to make the connection between basic debits and credits and how it actually shows you how money flows through the business each month. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters, right? Cash is king. We're trying to figure out where is all this client's money going. And, once we're more experienced in CPAs, we'll be helping them decide where that money needs to go and how they can use it, right? But if we can't make the connect, if it, it's so hard in your classes without having the real world experience to be able to make the connections between your basic debit and credits to how that actually helps the business. And in fact, this is one of my complaints of the current education system right now is, and granted there's schools that are still doing great things. Both of the universities I've been at have taught me amazing things, but I don't feel like there's enough of bridging that gap between what's done in the classroom and what's going to happen in real life. And we have to memorize and learn all this stuff so fast. And, we have exams on the third or fourth week of classes, and you're rushing to make sure you can pass the exam when we need to be helping students see, okay, this is a rule, this acts like this, and we have this because dot, dot, dot. When you can make those real world connections, not only is it easier to learn, but it's almost fun. At least for me, it's fun, right?
Yeah,
I can sit in an accounting class for 3 hours one day and be like, oh my gosh, like what did I just learn? But if you can make the connections to what you're really doing at work, oh my gosh. I like leave the classroom and I'm like, I get to go look at this at work now.
yeah, yeah, and That's been my experience too. Like I love work. I love what I do. I love the people that I work with and the clients that I work for. It's all so great, and it like talking to students who like don't have that experience or who are just in accounting because they had to pick a major. Like I don't know, it's a weird feeling because they don't have that drive. They don't see what it's going to be like later. And obviously I'm not in my end career position or anything. Like I love what I do. I'm very grateful. H&R Block has treated me incredibly well. And I'm going to continue to do my absolute best for them while I'm still here. Um, my career is going to lead me, other places in a couple years. But yeah, I agree with you. I would love to see, um, some kind of implementation in schools to where you come in and it's like a bookkeeping class that entire semester. Like
Yeah.
it could be bookkeeping but just a way more in-depth level. Like we have the accounting software class. I don't know if you guys have that at your new university. It's where you go through and do like QuickBooks Online.
We have an accounting information systems class here,
Okay.
but no.
Okay.
And maybe I'm a little glad I don't have that class now because I I bleed blue now instead of green.
Yeah.
I'm a zero guy.
Zero
So
is amazing. So I've got it pulled up and looking at it partially just because it's a white background and it'll light me up a little bit better.
am I
Um
un-American for liking zero over QuickBooks?
no, I don't like QuickBooks. It's just so complicated and convoluted, and like trying to show a client how and where everything is in it is just such a mess. So like you, I guess you could say I bleed blue too, and I use zero wholeheartedly. But I would love it if there was a class where it's like, hey, we're gonna reconcile 2 years of a company's financial statements or of a company's financial records, and we're going to build financial statements for both years so that you can kind of see it from the start and then kind of carry through and do the closing entries and all that. I would love to see if that happened.
That would be transformative for students. So even just the first couple of times I've been on zero, like I'm no expert. I don't even have close to the experience you have yet. Like I am just starting out. But like for example, I'm building out a budget for one of our clients right now for the next 2 years, and I'm able to use their historical data in zero to build all of that, and how easily you can build financial statements in zero is just amazing. So if you do the bookkeeping right, these tools make it so easy to use all of the accounting data you've collected for so long as a huge asset to you moving forward. It's amazing. It's so
Yeah.
good.
And were you ever familiar with IBC at BOUI?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You
So
want to explain to our listeners what that is real quick?
yeah, so I don't remember what IBC stands for. Do you? Okay. Well, it was pretty much it was a set of three different classes that you had to take together during a semester, and pretty much you got placed into a group, and your group had to build an entire business. You were given either a merchandising or a food service business, and you had to go with that and build something. You got a loan from the school, which you'd have to pay back. And just the entire semester, your whole focus is to build up this business, and you have to do everything from uh, I guess your marketing strategy to financials, and you have different people who are assigned like the CFO or the treasurer, the secretary, the president, or whatever, and then you rotate roles every so often. So everyone kind of has to have that touch and go experience with each position in a company. So again, yeah, like I appreciated the QuickBooks class that we offer or that BYUI offers, the 100% online. But I think the the cement for everything that we're trying to learn would be much stronger if we had something like an IBC program, but for an accounting firm or like a class designated to that. So that'll be my last
Something,
piece on that.
yeah. So something I've proposed um, is why not have a bookkeeping club for accounting students and go find maybe really small nonprofits that, wouldn't have a complex tax return and wouldn't have complex books, like maybe a couple transactions a week type thing, nothing crazy. um or like, there's all these soccer and football clubs, like there's got to be one of them that needs bookkeeping, that the lady who started the group is the one doing it in QuickBooks right now, right? Like,
Yeah.
why not get a group of students or have this be a class, and this class just always does bookkeeping for free for these small organizations, and it's very low stakes because if the students mess up, it can be fixed easily, and
You also
it
have
just gives them a
professors
chance.
reviewing and
Yeah, it gives them a chance to interact with clients, learn how to speak with clients, work with clients, uh, talk in a very professional way, because, I didn't know how to do that before starting at my firm. And you could take that experience and really develop the accounting students. Or, we have all this technology with AI and stuff now. Why not create some fake company or use one of these business simulators, and just have to do the books in QuickBooks or zero the whole semester, and then at the end of the semester you gotta build the financial statements and then present them to the class, and you better be right, because if you're not, it's just like real life, right?
yeah.
But I like, when I talk to people about this, I kind of call it the trade school argument. Um, if you're going into welding, you don't sit there in a classroom for the first 3 weeks of the course and just learn, well, this is your welding equipment and your safety equipment and this and that. No, they put you on the welder like day one. So why couldn't we do the same for accounting, especially where it's such a interactive and practice heavy uh career, right? Like, you learn the career by doing it. Every firm I've ever interviewed with is saying, "Oh, we're going to teach you a bunch of new stuff as soon as you get on the job with us."
Yeah. I
So if it's already that way, shouldn't we be getting experience instead of just being bookworms? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I don't think there's been a single firm that I've talked to that said, "Oh yeah, like your knowledge will carry over." All of them have been like, "You're gonna know nothing. You're gonna screw up a lot. Just ask a lot of questions, and we're here to help." So
Yep.
it's not to diminish any of the knowledge that we've gained. It's just they between theoretical and practical, there are differences in how things are done.
And
Um,
granted, a lot of this stuff we need to know for the CPA exam, right? Like, even if you're never going to touch it in your accounting career, you got to know it for the CPA exam.
yeah,
But but yeah, I just really feel like the lack of practice with the information it becomes a blind spot for students.
yeah. And I mean, we have McGraw Hill Connect, and we do the journal entries, and you fill in the blanks. But it's one thing to make those double entry or those double account entries or whatever you call them, make those journal entries, and it's another thing to like have a software and have these random transactions that you're looking at and be like, what the heck is this? Or like getting a loan amortization and having to make the adjusting entries inside of an accounting software, and then getting the balance sheet and reporting it and vetting it and doing all that stuff. So wholeheartedly agree.
Well, and one more thing I'll touch on this while we're on this topic is the modern smaller accounting firms. So if students are going to go start their own firm someday, there's way more to a tech stack than just QuickBooks, right? They have
Yeah.
softwares, they have fintech banks now that will, you know, code transactions before it even gets into QuickBooks. And so when it comes into QuickBooks, you just have to check and make sure the software like lined it up correctly. Um, There's practice management softwares, which I don't think was ever mentioned to me in school. But
Yeah.
if you're a firm with all of these documents, this information coming in all the time, and you have to assign your workflows to your employees, that can get so messy so fast if you do not have an organized way of doing it. And understanding how these practice management softwares work, whether it be TaxDome or Carbon, or some people are using ClickUp, or some of those more broad CRMs that aren't specifically made just for accountants. But being able to understand those softwares before you ever start out would be so beneficial. And
Yeah.
it's crazy, most of them offer free certifications, so you can get certified in these products for free.
Yeah.
Why not have a course that's just like a accounting technology course for small businesses? You can even make it an accounting elective, and students could just go and get certified with whichever of these softwares that they want to.
That would be
And
really
then in
cool.
class, you just talk about how these apply.
Yeah. And I'm kind of going through that process myself. So we're me and two other partners we're opening a very small firm. So we want to keep it small for a long time. We're not trying to replace our daytime jobs, because I appreciate the experience that I'm getting. Um and we're not trying to gun or compete for our clients. Like, they're completely separate. Um but it's been really interesting because two of us are accountants, and then another one comes from a sales background in payments. Um, and the partner from the sales background in payments has been so helpful. Like, holy crap, he knows so much about all the different softwares that you need. Now, obviously, I understood, like, okay, we need a bookkeeping and a practice management, and we're gonna need an email and stuff like that. But he was going beyond and thinking of things that we didn't really see beforehand. And so now we have our built out tech stack, and about half of it is more than half of the contribution is from him, as far as like figuring out how it's all going to work and integrate. Um, but yeah, for accountants who do want to go in and do their own thing, or go off and do their own thing after getting their experience and their CPA or whatever, um, you're 100% right. Like, there's so much more that goes into like having and running a successful firm than just a tax preparation software and a bookkeeping software. So, and Intuit tries to do that thing where they do everything, but they don't do it that well. So I mean, you could commit to that and make it work. Or if you spend a little bit more time in elbow grease, you can piece together your own that'll fit with how you want to work, and it'll probably be cheaper in the end anyway. So
Yeah. Well, I'm super excited to see where your little firm goes. I know several BYUI alum now who have started bookkeeping in small firms while they were still in school. So, way to keep the tradition going. You're killing it, man.
yeah, trying to.
What we're both about the same place in school. We're going to be finishing up here in about a year with our undergrad. If you were talking to some young accounting students right now, what would be your number one piece of advice for them?
Don't worry so much about where exactly you want to end up in accounting. Like, if you know you like accounting, there's going to be something for you. Don't focus on that so much as focusing on just rounding yourself out as a person. In my experience, and of course I'm still young, but in my experience of going around and interviewing with different firms, and with some of these big firms, I've had the opportunity and the pleasure to be able to meet with partners, which has been a really unique experience. I mean, they love you for your knowledge and your drive, but they're going to love you a whole lot more as a person. And so just round yourself out. Don't focus too heavily on school. Like, still have your hobbies, do fun stuff, get experience, do what you can to just build out yourself as a person. Figure out who you want to be as an adult. and kind of what you want to be known for. And then beyond that, if I mean, all of us are pretty much considering grad school. Uh, go wherever it's going to be cheapest. No one cares where you get your master's. Everyone's going to care whether or not you have your CPA. That's it. Um, every partner I've talked to has given me that same bit of advice. Just go wherever it's cheaper. Even if a firm is going to pay for it and they're going to have some kind of clawback on it, for a couple of years after you finish your degree or whatever and get your CPA, then fine, do that if it's going to be cheaper. There's really very few cases now where you can justify going and spending a ridiculous amount on grad school, because so many firms are willing to pay for it. Anderson Tax straight up pays for it, all of it, and there's no clawback period on that. RSM and a few of the other big guys have tuition assistance where they offer reimbursement fees on a portion of the education, or they pay for the Becker and the study materials and the exams for the CPA. So yeah, round yourself out as a person, figure out who you want to be and what you want to stand for and be known for going forward. And then just keep it cheap going forward, get credentialed, and the rest will take care of itself.
I love it. I love it. You're doing great work, Joseph. So thank you for sharing the good word and being such a good example to all my listeners here. Where can people find you? Just LinkedIn?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. My wife and I, we deleted social media about 6-7 months back, so maybe that's another thing you could do. If you're young, delete it. I promise you're going to be happier. I promise you, in a week, you're not even going to miss not having Instagram or anything like that. So LinkedIn is the best way, and obviously, if you're listening to this, you probably saw the LinkedIn post. So I'm more than happy to talk about anyone and help with in any regard I can. But I mean, I'm super grateful to be here. Like, I'm stoked for you, Chayton. Like, after seeing where you've come in such a short time, like, oh, it's so cool to kind of be like, oh shoot, he's got his own podcast and he's got that internship. And then whenever you got your zero and carbon certification, I was like, hey, I just did that like a month ago.
Let's go.
So super stoked for you and for where you're gonna go.
Well, it's a big thanks to you, Joseph, for starting me on that journey. So thank you.
Well, I'm glad you could learn something out of all of the stuff that I spew out.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you everyone for listening. And we'll catch you guys next week. Joseph, you want to hang on the line real quick?